How to study a place. This podcast is at the basic level. It requires some knowledge of Accordance Bible software, but no knowledge of Hebrew or Greek. This week, I and several other members of the Accordance team have been packing for Israel. We're taking a 2-week tour of the Holy Land. It's the trip of a lifetime for many of us. For a biblical scholar like myself, it means the chance to visit all those places I've been teaching about for years. It got me to thinking about those who never have the opportunity to go. How do we, as teachers, transport them back in time and space? How do we make the stories in the Bible come alive for them? Part of the answer lies in acquiring enough information about the physical setting of a story. This week, we'll look at how to study a place in the Bible and see just where to gather those kinds of details. The best resources for researching a place are a good Bible dictionary, which will provide an overview and a history, an atlas, which will give location and additional geographic details, and a nice collection of photos, which will bring it all together and provide illustrations for our audience. What can we expect to find? Here are a few examples. King Solomon built a fleet of ships at Ezon-Geber, which is near Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram set with his fleet his servants, seamen who were familiar with the sea, together with the servants of Solomon. How valuable was Hiram of Tyre's offer to send a seaman to help crew Solomon's ships? According to this map of Tyre's trade from Carta's The Sacred Bridge, it was like giving him a machine to print money. How about this one? When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, "David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. Why would Saul need 3,000 men to find David? Would it help to know that En-Gedi was a region filled with limestone cliffs and caves like those at Qumran? It also boasted a freshwater spring, seen here in this photo from Photo Guide 3, a valuable resource for a man on the run. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Have you ever noticed how often the phrase "up to Jerusalem" appears in the Bible? 23 times to be exact. Why? This color-coded map section from the Accordance Bible Atlas gives us a clue. But check out this 3D cross-section of the same region. The change in elevation is much clearer, indicating that Jerusalem was, indeed, up from the surrounding countryside. Using information from the instant details of the Bible Atlas, I was able to determine the exact change in elevation from the shore of the Mediterranean Sea to Jerusalem. 2,600 feet in 36 miles. The rise from the Dead Sea is even steeper, 3,900 feet in less than half the distance. A place need not be a city either. Consider this story in John 4. So he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And a woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." What stands out in this passage to anyone familiar with the ancient Near East? Simply that this woman came to draw water by herself, and at noon. Here's a more common scene, taken from Todd Boland's American Colony collection. Water collection was typically a female task, but one done with other village women. It was a social activity. The long shadows here also indicate that the sun was low on the horizon, a much better time for such strenuous activity than in the full heat of the noonday sun. Identify. The first step in studying a place is to identify it. That might seem like a simple task until we recognize that some places have multiple names, and some of these names are shared by other places. Until we sort these out, a simple search of the text will likely miss many relevant passages and include others that occurred somewhere else. We sort these out using a Bible dictionary. What kinds of information should we be looking for? First, the names of the site. We need to list the names given to this place throughout its history, and determine the rationale for each name. Once we're done, we can check the location by locating it on a map and then describing its location in relation to several well-known landmarks or cities. Finally, we'll need to distinguish it from other places with the same or similar names. For example, this article from Murdman's Dictionary of the Bible notes that there are 2 towns called Bethlehem in the Bible. one in the tribal territory of Zebulun, the other, the more famous one, in Judah. Note that the article already sorts the relevant Bible passages into the proper locations. Now we're ready to investigate the site. Investigate. The second step in studying a place is to investigate it. All too often, biblical scholars focus only on the religious importance of a site, as if those events occurred in isolation. A better method of investigation is to first understand why the site was located here in the first place. What features gave this site its initial importance? Was it its natural resources, especially in this area, its potable water? How about a particular kind of geology, geography, or accessibility by road or by sea? Perhaps its climate was especially favorable, or its flora and fauna, whether wild or domestic, different from other places around it. Then we need to ask, who has lived here and why? What kind of population groups inhabited the site, and what sorts of architecture did they inhabit? What is its political and military importance, its commercial and economic importance, and, of course, its religious significance? Then and only then do we want to ask what the history of the site is. And we'll use a variety of resources to answer these questions, once again starting with a Bible dictionary. This is an example of a solid article on a place from one of the best Bible dictionaries around, the Anchor Bible Dictionary. Notice that it includes an introduction with its sources of information, the various names of Jerusalem and its natural assets, a rather longish history of the site, and a bonus feature, the theology related to the site. Now, we could end our investigation here, especially if we were short of time, but there is so much more to learn. For example, armed with the four names for this site, Salem, Jerusalem, Zion, and perhaps Jebus, we can now search for all the relevant passages in the Bible. There are almost 1,000 of them. Reading them for ourselves will give us a better feel for the place, and clicking the graph icon allows us to analyze the frequency and distribution of each of the site's names. We can then use the contextual menu to move to the next resource, the Accordance Bible Atlas. This interactive atlas automatically searches for the site and highlights it, as you can see here on the map. Once I'm here, I can place my cursor on the city and see its elevation, longitude, and latitude in the Instant Details box. Use the various layers to add other sites and the roads appropriate to the time period, add political boundaries, and even use option clicks to plot the distance from another city using those ancient highways. With this site's location firmly fixed in our minds, we can now research its surrounding location a bit more, looking for things like rainfall, climate, flora and fauna, and other natural resources. These details are best found in a Bible atlas. There are 3 in the Carta collection that are very suitable: the Sacred Bridge, the Carta Bible Atlas, and Carta's New Century Handbook and Atlas of the Bible. There's also a good one in the IVP Essential Reference Collection, the New Bible Atlas. These are handy tools, whether one is investigating archaeological periods, an ancient trade route, or the region's annual rainfall. The final step in investigation is to hunt for photos. This used to be a real challenge, but Accordance users now have access to 5 different major photographic collections, 3 of which are now on sale through the end of March 2011. Once again, we'll use all the site's names, this time in the photo caption field using Search All Graphics tools. With almost 2,000 hits, this hunt is over almost before it began. If you can't swing a trip to Israel right now, but you're handy with Photoshop, you can even insert yourself into one of these photos for a little personal touch. Like this photo of me, broadcasting from Masada. Who knows, maybe your Bible class will get the hint, take up a collection, and send you on a tour. Evaluate. The final step, evaluate, is perhaps the most important of all. The difference between a block of marble and a sculpture is the chips on the floor and the skill of the sculptor. In the same way, up to this point, we've only gathered the raw material for our project, not shaped it. And not all the information we've gathered is of equal importance. Those values will shift with the focus of our project. A paper on the history of Jerusalem, the exegesis of an Old Testament passage, the theology of the New Jerusalem, all these draw from the same raw material. However, they will use different bits and pieces. Here's where we need time to reflect on what we've discovered and use our imagination to synthesize all the bits and pieces we've collected. One instructor I had once likened the process to allowing a pot of chili to simmer so that the flavors blend together. Ultimately, we won't be able to include everything, so we'll need to prioritize and select the material that best fits our project. Just one more tip. Don't throw the rest of your notes away. Be sure and save all your research for the future, perhaps even in an article in an Accordance user tool. You can see podcast number 30. If you save it there, it will always be right at hand when you need it. Good storytelling is an essential aspect of good teaching. The resources in Accordance can help you become an effective storyteller. Bible dictionaries, Bible background commentaries, and atlases, and good photos, like those on sale this month in Photo Guide 3 and Biblical Places American Colony. All of these feed the imagination. They can help you make the Bible come alive for your students. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.